All right, hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome back once again to another episode of the Regular Guys NBA DFS show. I am David. We are back in the dungeon, and yeah, we've got a nice little two-game slate here coming up that we're gonna see if we can put a couple lineups together for. Um, Coming off a real good game, good night last night, guys. Scored over 300 fantasy points on DraftKings. 301.25. In fact, in our top lineup, made some decent money, and a couple of the tournaments I was in, it was literally one player and 19 points away from complete takedown. So hopefully you guys got to tune into yesterday's show. We talked about things like fading Kyrie Irving before the injury. For the savings and not playing him and going with Chris Paul instead. We were on guys. Let's see, who else were we on yesterday? Mike James getting more minutes, which worked out for us. He wasn't all that productive, but he did come back with more minutes yesterday. So definitely some good picks from yesterday that helped us build a pretty good score. Hopefully we can do that here again today. Before I get started on today's breakdown, guys, if you don't mind, if you would hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that notification bell. I need to put my headphones on. That's much better. Now I can hear myself. Anyway, yeah, hit the notification bell. That way you get notified every time we put out new videos. And then give me a follow on Twitter at SandoDFS. We put out updates throughout the day. We'll put out the link to this video. If you retweet it, you're entered in a playoff version of our 25 DFS dollars to use however you choose through PayPal, or you can leave a comment down below and we'll put your name in the drawing as well. We're going to try and do that drawing probably like once the finals are set, before we get into the finals, and all we have left is showdown slate. So yeah, like button, subscribe button, notification bell would all be appreciated. And let's go ahead and get started here on this two-game slate. Okay, so we've kind of been doing this format a little bit different, guys. When I started this video, we were doing a pick six. Just six guys that I felt really good about to start your lineups with throughout the day. Again, now that we're down to two-game slates, basically, we're all picking from the same player pool, and generally speaking, we know, who the good plays are and who they aren't. It all comes down to roster construction, and that's what happened last night. One guy here instead of over one guy there. And we'd have been talking about complete takedowns of tournaments, not just, significant cashes like we had. So, anyway, let's try and get it right today. We're just going to build up a couple lineups. I'm just going to give you my early thoughts on what I see here. And as I put a couple of lineups together and see what you guys think. And we'll just go through the whole things instead of just doing, a pick six. So, let's start with, if you've been following along on the channel, usually my first lineup of the day is kind of the jam as many studs into the lineup as you can and still hope, that it works without having to go too deep into the value grunge, if you will. So I'm going to start today's video with a guy that I'm probably just going to play in every lineup, kind of like I did yesterday with Paul George. Unfortunately, this time he's the most expensive guy on the board, but Embiid's just been killing it. What else can you say? The knee, I hasn't seemed to bother him. He's been playing big minutes. He's been dominating down low. He's been making threes. It's just he's been putting up points. So I'm not going to fade him today. Maybe in my third lineup, as I've talked about to you guys before, I'll usually build three lineups because the most I'll enter generally is a 3-entry max tournament on DraftKings. But 62, 66, 58. Enough said. So who else can we fit in and still make this a viable lineup? Well, it takes a little work, but we are going to go ahead and put Donovan Mitchell in at our point guard position. Donovan was really good the first two games. Wasn't quite as good last game. Had a little ankle tweak. Now, hopefully, it was just a tweak, and that's not going to affect him going forward. But, 47 and 48 the last two games after the 61 points in the first game against the Clippers. I think the Clippers are starting to do a little bit better job of closing down Mitchell, but we know what kind of player he is. I still think he's the best point guard play or best guard play overall on the board today. He's a little bit cheaper still than Trae Young, just $200. But yeah, I still like Donovan Mitchell tonight because we know, especially now, I kind of have a feeling Mike Conley's going to play tonight now that the Jazz have lost a game, but we'll see in our second lineup that we build that will come into play. But everything's still going to run through Mitchell. Mitchell's going to have big games for Utah, to stay in this thing and to score enough points to beat the Clippers. So I still think Donovan Mitchell is a good play, even though, his last game wasn't that great. And really the game before that, he didn't even score over 50. But I'm going to take one more shot with him and go ahead and play him here. Now, much like Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard, the first two games of the series was good, but he wasn't great. He wasn't what we expected Kawhi Leonard to be. And then last game he comes out, and I think he put up over 60. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. Yeah, 63 after having 38 and 37. So, Kawhi could certainly have another one of those games tonight. And if you're going to build multiple lineups, I would suggest having one with Kawhi in it. But Paul George, old playoff P, he's been really good too. He has the stigma of not being, he gave himself the nickname Playoff P, which was a bad idea. And now everyone trashes him every time he doesn't live up to it or put up a huge day. But Paul George has been really good in this series. He's going to continue to play big minutes. He's going to continue to get plenty of scoring opportunities. We're talking about almost $1,400-$1,500 less here. So, what if Kawhi could go back to having one of those games like he had in the first two, and Paul George could be the guy that scores tonight. Paul George always has the ability, if he's making shots, to score over 60. So I'm going to go ahead in this lineup instead of trying to jam Kawhi in. I'm going to take the $1,400 savings, and I'm going to put Paul George into it. Okay. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. A couple of guys from Atlanta that we've been playing now that DeAndre Hunter is out that have ended up being good value plays. So in our small forward position, I once again like, where's he at? I once again like Kevin Huerter. He's under 5K. He's going to play big minutes. He's been playing big minutes. Kevin Huerter's a good shooter, man. Now, obviously in the last game he was terrible, but 29 and 30 fantasy points in the first two games. I don't expect him to score 5 fantasy points, 3 regular points, and play 23 minutes. He had 4 personal fouls where he got into foul trouble early and he just never got into his rhythms. But I don't have any trouble going right back to him tonight because if Atlanta's going to stay in this thing, he's going to have to, produce and have a pretty good game. And along those same lines, his teammate, Danilo Gallinari, I was on him a couple of games ago when he was like 41 or 4,200. I kind of expected his price would come up a little bit more than this. So at under 5K with Gallinari, it's obviously Huerter and Gallinari who are going to be taking the minutes of DeAndre Hunter now that Hunter's out for the season. How many minutes did he play? I think he played over 30, didn't he? 28 to 30. Yeah, he played. He played 30 minutes, only 20 fantasy points. This is more what I'm looking for here is the 37, 21 points and 9 rebounds. But Gallinari's going to get somewhere between 25 and 32 minutes. And at 4,600, I have no problem going to him as well. Now, there is a piece of value on the slate today that I like. We saw Danny Green get hurt. Danny Green is now done. He's been a staple for the Philadelphia lineup. They went ahead and went with Furkan Korkmaz, over Green. Once Green got hurt, that's who came in and replaced him. I'm fine going to Korkmaz today if he starts. I assume he's going to start. Keep an eye on the starting lineup. I suppose they could start Thibault instead of Korkmaz, or maybe some kind of weird small ball and put Shake Milton in. But if Korkmaz starts at 3,500, I think he's a really good value play. And as you guys know, finding value sometimes in these playoff games is tough. Played 27 minutes, scored 21 fantasy points. I expect if he starts for Danny Green here tonight that he'll play at least 30 minutes and maybe over, 34, 35 minutes. So at 3,500, he's a value shot worth taking. And, I think he's actually decent value. We're not just grasping at straws. We are going to grasp at straws kind of for the last one. But I'm going to put in this last forward position. I've played him a couple times. He hasn't been very high owned, and he's been pretty consistent. Now, John Collins is a guy that, he can go out and score you 40 or he can go out and score you 20. But I like John Collins in this situation. He's going to have to continue to play, pretty big minutes, 33 to 35 minutes, and he scored 33, 25, and 30 in the last 3 games. He is a little bit of a risky play, but at 5,900, if I can get 35 fantasy points and 35 minutes out of John Collins, that's certainly worth trying to jam him in. Now, we look at our roster and look what's happened here. We've got Mitchell, George, and Embiid all into this, but we're left with that last utility spot. The Los Angeles Clippers are driving me friggin' mad. Last game, let's just go to some of their Terrence Mann plays 22 minutes last game. Kennard plays 17. Beverly only plays 16. The game before that, I think Beverly played like 20-some minutes. Terrence Mann played like 8, and Luke Kennard didn't play hardly any at all. So if we want to get Mitchell, George, and Embiid in the same lineup, we got to take a flyer somewhere. And you guys know me, you've been following this channel. I don't have a problem doing it. It's just which flyer do I want to take here? I've got 2 choices left in this lineup. I can either go with Mann or I can go with Beverly. Now, it seems like Beverly will be a little bit more consistent because it looks like they're wanting to play him over Rondo. Rondo really hasn't been a factor. In fact, I'm not sure he's played the last 2 games. Beverly is a defensive specialist pretty much, and I think that's why we're probably going to get 15 to 20 minutes from Beverly pretty regularly because they need him on Mitchell. But Beverly's upside offensively and fantasy-wise is certainly limited. You just got to hope he has a good game. The other guy, Terrence Mann, he has more upside offensively. He's scoring dependent, and you got to hope he has a good game. But you know what? It's the minutes. Is he going to get the minutes? So you guys choose. I think if I have to choose here, I'm just going to go ahead and put in Pat Beverly just because I'm pretty sure because of his defense, he's going to be on the floor at least, 17 to 19 minutes, kind of what he has been. But if you want to go to Mann, last time he played 22 minutes, Mann can certainly be a fantasy point per minute player when he gets the opportunity. So one of those 2 guys here in this lineup, that'll make our first DraftKings lineup of the day, guys, trying to get 3 studs into this. Okay, now let's move quickly. We'll do one more here. I'm just going to leave Embiid in. And, of course, I think in this one, in case Kawhi Leonard does go off again tonight, I think we're going to put Kawhi Leonard in there. So we've got 2 guys, 10,000 and above in. I'm not going to try and jam any more studs into this because I don't want to get to the Clipper guessing game again where who plays 17 minutes, who plays 10, and who plays 23. And that's the price range we're going to end up in more than likely if we try and jam a 3rd stud in. But let me give you an option here. So I'm going to go back to, in this particular lineup, I'm going to go back to Reggie Jackson. His price still stayed at $5,200. He's been really productive the last 2 games. He's obviously going to get the minutes. They're getting as many minutes as they can out of Reggie Jackson, and he's been very good. So I'll make him my point guard in this lineup. And then, where'd I go here? Oh, yeah. Let's just go ahead and keep with the value. Again, if Korkmaz starts, I think he's a great value play. We need as much value as we can when we're trying to get as many studs into this. So let's go ahead and go back to Korkmaz. Again, if he starts, keep an eye on that, but I think he will. And then I like going back to Gallinari again, too, under 5K. Now, in the guard position, we talked about it earlier. I'm going to go ahead in this early build and put Mike Conley in. We got to watch. Will he be on a minutes limit? Probably, but how much will that be? I mean, will he even play? But Mike Conley is not going to be high owned tonight, guys. Even if he gets announced that he's playing, he's not going to be. Now, the problem is this game starts at 9 o'clock. We're going to need to know before 6:30 if he's going to play. But generally, they've been getting the news on Mike Conley out fairly early in the day. So I suspect we'll have the news. Unless it says he's going to play 15 minutes or less, he's not going to be very high owned. I might take a shot on Conley here. If you don't want to do that, you can consider like a guy like Bogdanovich for a similar price. Ben Simmons doesn't quite fit. I tried that. Unless you want to do the guessing game on Clippers minutes again. And then so we can finish this one out here with a couple of guys. Nicholas Batum at 4,500 is a great play. He's a great price is what he is, because he's been getting the minutes for the Clippers, and he's been fairly productive. And that leaves us with 4,800 left for our utility spot in the second one, and bam, it lands right on Kevin Huerter. Now, if Conley doesn't play, then I'm going to make this more than likely a Joe Ingles play, because Jordan Clarkson seems to be a little bit more productive, but he's $1,000 more, and him and Ingles get at least the same minutes. So I just play Ingles and hope that, he has a good shooting game. And then obviously we would change this around here between Batum and Huerter. We could go to a guy I'll just kind of do this on the fly here. Bogdanovich from Utah, O'Neal from Utah. Bogdanovich has been okay. I don't know if that first game, actually, he's been crap. 29 the first game, 25, and then 15 fantasy points. So I don't see myself going there. So I'd probably go to Royce O'Neal, because he's going to get the minutes, and he's going to get you between 20 and 25 fantasy points. And then what do we got left? A John Collins, a Jordan Clarkson, a Bogdanovich. So play with this area down here, guys, and it'll be easier to do once we get the Mike Conley news. But I am not afraid to go to Mike Conley tonight if I get the sense he's going to play, over 20 minutes, because he will not be high owned. So anyway, that's my first look at it here today, guys. I appreciate you joining me for the regular guys show. Once again, before we get out of here, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell down there, and give me a follow on Twitter at SandoDFS. If anything happens throughout the day, I'll be putting out some updates on Twitter, my thoughts, maybe once the Conley news comes out, and any other updates that we might get. So good luck to all of you. Good luck to all of us. Thank you for joining me, and we will talk to you guys again, I believe, tomorrow.